Welcome to Live Vita, the show for women who are ready to break free from diet culture, nourish their bodies intuitively, and reconnect with their natural rhythms. I'm Shay, a registered holistic nutritionist and founder of the Vita Method, where I help women support their gut, hormones, and metabolism through practical, evidence-informed nutrition and lifestyle changes, all without the overwhelm. So whether you're struggling with bloating, energy crashes, metabolic imbalances, or just feeling confused and out of sync with your body, you're in the right place. Here we'll talk about real nourishment, metabolism, slow living, and everything in between. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Live Vita podcast. And if you listened to the last podcast, you know that this episode is the continuation of my last episode. So we are getting more into metabolism and mindset, but this episode's focusing a lot on your maintenance calories, nutrition for metabolism and thyroid health, as well as women's hormones. Buckle in and let's get right back into it. If you're listening to this too and you're hearing me reference the beginning of this episode, I'm actually referencing our last podcast episode. So you can go back in the history and give that a listen if you want to know a little bit more about what I am referencing. But I think you can listen to this episode as a standalone as well, and you won't have any problem with that. Thanks so much for tuning in, and let's dive in. All right, so the second half of our metabolic episode is going to be all about nutrition. Let's talk about it. Why should you find the upper end of your maintenance calories? So if you aren't familiar with these concepts, if you haven't tracked your food before, if you have no idea how many calories you're eating, that's fine. We're not going to talk a lot about calories. I'm not going to talk about numbers, but I do want there to be some concepts that you're made aware of because they're really important. First of all is maintenance calories. So we know if we're overeating our calories, if we have too many calories, we're going to be gaining weight. And we know if we eat less calories than the energy we burn, we're going to be losing weight. Maintenance calories is the amount of calories you need to sustain life. So it's your metabolic baseline. And there's a few different ways we can look at this. There's your metabolic baseline if you are in a coma. So that's how many calories it requires for your body to exist, assuming that you are in a coma and you're not moving and you're not doing anything. It's just the amount that your body needs to maintain its mass, to maintain that energy demanding heart and brain. And that is a number that a lot of people will cut their calories down to in order to lose weight. And they'll just be like, I just eat my BMR, and it's like your basal metabolic rate. And it's like, that is the amount of calories you need if you're in a coma, not if you're alive and doing activities of any sort. And I don't want to talk a lot about weight loss here, but if you are trying to lose weight and you're cutting down to your BMR, you're ultimately going to downregulate your metabolism. And somewhere down the line, this is going to cause problems for you, whether that is issues with digestive stress or issues with your gallbladder from weight loss that is too rapid, or if it downregulates your metabolism so you have nowhere to go but down and you end up being really, really hungry all the time and all you can think about is food and you're just white knuckling it because you're just so hungry. That doesn't sound great to me. And you might hit your number goals, your weight loss goals, but have you improved your relationship with food? Have you improved your relationship with your body? Do you feel safe and secure and abundant and juicy and alive? Probably not, And I've done this too, where it's like I went pretty low calorie while I was powerlifting, long distance cycling, working a job on my feet, and my hair was falling out and I felt like shit, and I ended up having a big mental health crisis essentially. And it was all because I just didn't have enough nutrients and enough nutrition. So I want to offer the other way. There is another path that we can take. And if you don't want to take this path, that's okay. You do you. But I want to put the information out there and you can do with it what you will. So your maintenance calories is your metabolic baseline. Chronic undereating is going to lower your maintenance calories over time. This is called adaptive thermogenesis. So when you start a weight loss or a body recomposition journey, you actually want to be eating as much as possible. You want to eat, you want to be like food maxing. It requires energy to lose fat. It requires energy to build muscle. It is a very demanding process on your body for your body to be like, okay, we're dropping weight. And if you do it too fast or, you do it rapidly, there are a lot of side effects that can happen from that. And we won't get into that here. But like I said, it's like, let's take the other path. Doesn't it sound a lot more pleasant to be like, I'm eating as much as I possibly can and I'm doing this like weight loss or body recomposition journey, or you're just like maintaining your weight. And if you're just maintaining your weight, great. You don't even have to worry about these other things. So yeah, we want to be eating as much as possible to maintain in order to protect our metabolisms, our muscle mass, and our hormonal health. If you have a bigger body, and this could be bigger due to muscle mass, it could be bigger due to height, it could be bigger due to fat mass, just bigger. You define yourself as being bigger. It requires more calories to maintain that body. So that's what we're talking about here is maintenance calories. And say you're just starting a health journey or a fitness journey, I'm not worried about you. You don't need to eat less, right? You might need to eat better. You need more nutrients. You need more micronutrients. You need more minerals. You don't need to like cut things away. You need to add things in. And especially if you're not exercising regularly and you're suddenly like, I'm going to do a big calorie cut. I'm going to exercise all the time. You're just sending this crazy stress response to your body, and your body's like, we're in survival mode right now. It is fight to the death, or we need to win at all costs or we're going to die. And that is not the signal that you want to be sending your body, especially when you want to transform your health into like a more vital version of you. So what you need to consider is it already requires a lot of energy to maintain your mass. For the purpose of illustrating this example, let's say it requires 3,000 calories a day to maintain your mass. And we won't get into the nuance of if and when that would happen. We're just going to use that as a generic number to illustrate an example. So say it requires 3,000 calories to maintain your mass. You've been living a fairly sedentary lifestyle. You haven't been eating that great and you want to get healthy. The first thing we want to look at is adding in more nutrient supportive food. We want to improve the building blocks for your body so your body can be more efficient. It can build better. And then we want to increase activity, right? So it's like, we're going to get more steps in. We're going to start walking and we're going to start doing some resistant training to build up that muscle mass. And from there, you don't even necessarily need to cut your supposed maintenance calories of 3,000 calories, because what you've done is you've effectively changed the foods that you're eating, which is actually going to change your metabolism. And if you're eating better quality foods and more protein, that's going to drive up your metabolic rate by sometimes a substantial amount. So that might make your maintenance calories 3,200 now, 3,200 calories to maintain just by changing your diet. But you're only eating the same 3,000 calories. So you're actually now in a 200 calorie deficit. And then you're improving your activity. Maybe that's changing again. It's requiring more energy of your body. So again, now it's 3,500 calories to maintain your mass. But again, you're just eating your 3,000 calories baseline, your maintenance calories of 3,000. But because you've made these dietary and lifestyle changes, you're now in a deficit of 500 calories and you haven't done anything different. You haven't restricted anything. You aren't counting anything. You're just changing your behaviors, and that's actually changing your metabolic rate. So hang on to that concept as we move through the rest of this. Now, a lot of women are actually needing a little reverse diet before they start trying to improve metabolism or, follow a fat loss phase, because a lot of women are actually under eating. And if this is you, if you're like, have been watching your calories and having small portions and you don't eat very much, you actually probably need to slowly reverse your diet and increase the amount of calories that you're eating to get to the upper end of your maintenance calories. And the reason why we want to be at the upper end of our maintenance calories is because then you have room, right? Like I said, with a 3,000 calorie example, if you're sitting at 3,000 calories and you want to go just through diet, go into a deficit down to 2,500 calories, that's still a lot of food. It's still a lot of nutrition. You're not getting micronutrient deficiencies. Whereas a lot of common dieting advice is like, eat 1,500 calories a day. And there's so much nuance to this. So if this interests you, I'd be happy to record another podcast episode all about like calories and like the context of when and where should we do these different things. But in general, we want to maintain at the higher end of our range, and then from there, change our diets and our lifestyles without trying to cut anything away and see what happens. And then from there, you might bump it down a little bit or you might bump it up a little bit, depending on what kind of lifestyle you're going to be living. If you're living a sedentary lifestyle and you're like, I don't plan on exercising ever, I hate exercise, but I can go on a walk around the block every day, then you're going to want to, figure out what works for maintenance there. You might want to bump it down a little bit. But if you're somebody who's like, I love lifting weights, I love being active, I love going on hikes and doing all this other stuff, and I have an active job, you probably don't need to change your maintenance at all. You want to stay at that higher end and just keep improving your activity level. This is actually a massive and complex topic, and we're just going to glaze the surface throughout the rest of this episode. So again, eating at the lower end of maintenance or eating chronically in a calorie deficit is going to maybe sustain you temporarily, but it's going to come at the cost of your thyroid function, your reproductive health, and your mental health. And we can look at this through the lens of evolutionary anthropology. So humans who survived famines were those who were best able to prioritize fat storage and metabolic downregulation. So we can look at this as an evolutionary advantage. When your thyroid and your metabolism slows down and you hold on to everything, it's because your body is like, we have to survive. Like literally, we're gonna die or we're gonna survive. So we're gonna slow everything down and hold on to everything because there's an acute crisis happening. There's a famine, there's a war, there's something happening and we need to survive. So this isn't how we're supposed to be living, and it's certainly not a recipe for thriving. So we want to make sure we're eating enough. And what that looks like is going to be different for every single individual. So I can't give you a formula to follow, but if you are interested in figuring out what enough looks like for you, I'd be so happy to work with you and figure that out because it's one of my favorite things to do. But it does take time because, again, the first thing we want to focus on is like, what is the relationship with food in the body? What about the energetic aspects? Like, do you feel okay eating food, or is there a lot of anxiety around it? Because first, you can't really have a balanced approach if you are imbalanced in how you think about all these things. So that's the first place to start. Another reason why we want to make sure we're eating at the upper end of our maintenance calories is for body recomposition. If you are trying to improve your physique, if you're trying to get a little leaner, build a little bit of muscle, just get healthier in general, you're going to want to start with that high maintenance calories and building up your muscles. And your muscles are going to drive your metabolic rate up. So you're going to have a higher energy output. Your body's going to require more energy to sustain that muscle mass. And we want to avoid crashing into a deep deficit so we can protect that lean mass that we're building, protect the thyroid, and most importantly, protect our sanity. So finding maintenance isn't just about calories, it's about energy abundance signals to your brain. And eating low carb, if you've been eating low carb for a while and you're like, is this okay? Like, can I eat low carb? I think there's certain contexts in which a low carb diet can be beneficial, but in general, women and humans need carbohydrates, and it's not supportive to the thyroid to be on a low carb diet for a long period of time. So I personally was on a low carb diet for several years, and now I'm on a much more abundant carbohydrate diet, and I feel a lot better. It takes your body time to adapt back. So if you are interested in putting more carbohydrates into your diet, mentally prepare yourself. This is going to take some time for everything to optimize, right? Like if your body is used to fat burning, it's going to take a while for it to switch back into carb burning as its primary fuel source, but it'll feel good. And it's like it might take your digestive health a little while to like switch into this too, where it's like it's not creating like blood sugar dysregulation from eating way more carbohydrates than what you're used to. And one of the downsides of low carb is you do have more difficulties with carbohydrates when you start introducing them again in excess. So you have to go slowly. I used to be eating like around 75 grams of carbs per day, and now I'm up to about 250 grams per day. And There's been no change in my weight. My weight has been stable throughout the whole thing. So it's not an issue of carbohydrates or an issue of fat. It's an issue of like, how does your metabolism and your thyroid respond to the energy that you are providing to your body? Taking a quick break to talk about something that could completely change the way you approach your gut health. If you're constantly dealing with bloating, sluggish digestion, cravings, or other imbalances with your metabolism and hormones, my free gut guide is the perfect place to start. It's a simple resource to help you restore digestion and rewild your gut in just 7 days. This will get your well-being right back on track. You can grab the gut guide as well as my other free resources at vitaessentia.com/free-health-guides. Also, the link's in the show notes. Now, back to the episode. So let's talk about the critical role of carbohydrates for women's metabolic health. First of all, if you are trying to build muscle mass, you're trying to maintain muscle mass, or you're trying to lose some body fat, or you're trying to recomp your body, or you're trying to look lean, or you're just trying to get healthier in general and you're not really worried about those things, but you're like, I just want to be healthy. The first thing to consider is that carbs are protein sparing. So when you have enough carbs in your diet, your body can prioritize muscle preservation and thyroid hormone production. When you don't have enough carbs, it suppresses your thyroid hormone conversion, the T4 to active T3. It increases your cortisol, the stress hormone, and long term, you'll find a loss of muscle mass. So way earlier in this episode, I was talking about how if you're at the gym or you're lifting weights and it's just like you're stalling out, you can't get stronger, everything feels heavy and it's just so hard. This is a sign your body just does not have enough fuel in its tank. It doesn't have enough glycogen stored. You're not fueling up that fuel tank often enough or full enough. Maybe you're only getting that fuel tank to about halfway full and then you're just dropping it to zero again, and then halfway full and dropping to zero again. So this creates a lot of long-term stress, and what we end up seeing is a loss of muscle mass because, again, carbohydrates are protein sparing, which means your body can hold on to its muscle and it can prioritize fat burning, which is what most of us want, honestly, and that's fine. Like, I'm all about being like, it's okay to be in your body however your body is, but a lot of us also do want to like lose a little bit of extra weight because it's uncomfortable or it's creating health problems, right? And that's fine. We don't need to stress out. If you want to be in your body and you want to change your body, that's okay. If you want to be in your body and you don't want to change your body, that's also okay. Either way, let's focus on better health, whatever that looks like for you. And this is especially important for women because the availability of carbohydrates in your diet is going to affect your reproductive hormones like estrogen and progesterone, as well as your digestive hormones like leptin and ghrelin. There was a 2019 study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism that found moderate carb intake, which would be about 40 to 50% of your diet, supported better thyroid and sex hormone balance in women compared to very low carb diets. So when I said earlier I was eating about 75 grams of carbohydrates previously, there's a lot of reasons why I was doing this, but when I was doing that, that was around 15 to upwards. Sometimes I'd eat more, so it was between 15 and 30% of my diet. Now my carbohydrate intake is around 40 to 50% of my diet, and it's made a really big change in my overall blood sugar stability and energy. And this is because carbs are a preferred clean burning fuel source for most cells. And I think if you've been struggling with gut health issues, it can be really hard to be like, I don't want to eat that many carbs because it's going to trigger all my gut health issues, which is part of why I was eating low carb, because I previously to this couldn't tolerate so many vegetables and so many complex carbohydrates in my diet. They would always cause issues. At this point in my life, they cause no issues, no digestive problems, but it has been a journey. So glucose availability regulates thyroid conversion, T4 to T3, which is going to influence your metabolism and your energy production. It also influences leptin and ghrelin, which are appetite hormones that regulate how hungry you are, how satisfied you are, and basically how your body responds to insulin and to food. And your reproductive hormone output, especially progesterone, which is possibly the most important female hormone, is also going to be deeply influenced by the availability of glucose. And we'll just take a little moment here to touch on progesterone because it's so deeply connected to your metabolism and your thyroid. But Most people know about estrogen, but progesterone plays a vital role in balancing estrogen and supporting reproductive health, especially during the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle. And that's that phase where your metabolism actually bumps up a little bit and you get a little more hungry, a little more food cravings. And progesterone, if we don't have enough, we're not going to get the beneficial effects of progesterone. Instead, we're going to get the opposite. So enough progesterone is going to have calming effects on the brain, support healthy sleep, reduce anxiety, promote fat burning, making it essential for both hormonal balance and overall well-being. And this is also where we need a little bit more carbohydrates during the luteal phase of the cycle, when you're getting a little more hungry and your metabolism's boost up a little bit, because having more carbohydrates at this time is going to maintain optimal progesterone production and metabolic health. And like I said, low carb can be beneficial in certain situations, but it's not something that we want to do long term. We don't want this to be our everyday 365 of the year way of eating, because there are some risks that come from eating low carb all the time. Things like losing your period, low libido, issues with sleep, lots of ups and downs with mood and anxiety, as well as hypoglycemia, which a lot of people have and don't realize they have it. And being hypoglycemic is one of the first signs that your blood sugar is getting dysregulated and you're on your way towards insulin resistance and possibly type 2 diabetes. So some of the signs of hypoglycemia include shakiness or trembling, irritability and mood swings, fatigue, feeling lethargic, dizziness, lightheadedness, excessive sweating and heart palpitations or a rapid heartbeat, headaches, feeling faint, confusion or difficulty concentrating, and like strong hunger or cravings for sugar or carbs. And all of these symptoms are symptoms that you'll have, and then they'll be alleviated by eating food or having, some juice or some sugar. You'll suddenly feel better because you're hypoglycemic. So that's the giveaway. It's like if you're feeling these things and then you eat some food and 20 minutes later you feel great, then that is your sign that you've been starting to drop into low blood sugar. And these fluctuating blood sugar levels can disrupt insulin, cortisol, and other hormone production, leading to further imbalances, particularly during PMS or menopause. And there'll be worsened symptoms of anxiety or depression. These blood sugar dips can trigger or amplify feelings of anxiety and irritability and mood swings, especially in women who are already pretty sensitive. So if you're like, just randomly getting anxiety at like 10 a.m. and you haven't had breakfast, but you've had coffee, you probably need to eat. And we can also see it with fatigue, like blood sugar dipping, energy just crashing. This is like your 3 p.m. crash where you're just like, I'm so tired and I just want some bread. That bread isn't going to help you feel less tired. It's just going to temporarily give you a boost and you're just going to crash again. And then we get the increased risk of overeating. Like if we don't eat enough, if we're not building out that good upper end maintenance calories, the cravings you get from hypoglycemia or like low blood sugar can lead to overeating. And this can be really challenging if you already have disordered eating patterns or if you're working on body composition goals. It's like you didn't eat and then suddenly you need to eat all the things and you're ravenously hungry, and it just becomes this cycle and this spiral that's really difficult to get out of sometimes, but not really, because all you really need to do is eat more earlier in the day. And from an energetic perspective, because we've talked a lot about energetics in this episode, restricting carbohydrates may represent a resistance to the sweetness in life, a subconscious defense against pleasure, abundance, nourishment, surrender, and safety. Maybe you just feel really guarded and it's really, really hard for you to drop your guard. It's hard for you to let your walls down. It's hard for you to let people in. It's hard to be taken care of. These can be all things that show up a lot in women because we're so used to like taking care of other people and taking care of other things, taking care of our children or our spouse or our friends, or taking care of stuff at work. And then especially now in the culture, it's like surrender can be seen in a negative light where it's like, well, what do you mean you can't just like boss babe your way out of this, And it's like, well, I actually just want to surrender and be taken care of. Is that too much to ask? And then you feel like maybe stressed out that you're not being taken care of in the way that you want to be, but you haven't figured out how to express your needs through that thyroid butterfly gland. You haven't figured out your voice yet. You haven't figured out how to ask for what you want. And it just becomes this really complicated web. So again, let's debunk a little bit about the slow metabolism myth. Obesity research shows that larger individuals actually have higher total daily energy expenditure. It's basic physics. The more mass you have, the more energy needed to sustain vital functions. And the variables that are going to impact your metabolic rate are things like lean muscle mass. This is the most significant thing in metabolic health. Like, how much muscle mass do you have? If it's not very much and you want your metabolism to be more effective and efficient, that is your first priority. Priority number one, build muscle and eat as much food as possible. And by as much food as possible, I mean as much food as possible to maintain. We don't want excess, but we don't want to be under eating either. How much can I eat that just maintains my body while I build my lean muscle mass? And then other variables are going to be like your bone density and your skeletal structure, as well as the mass of your organs, like how big is your brain, smart girl, or like your liver and your heart. These are all going to be high energy consumers. So it's more like metabolism is more about tissue demand and energy output, not just about body size. Again, like let's think of our metabolism as creating energy. And that really has nothing to do with your body size or your body composition. You can be in any size, shape of body and produce tons of energy, or any size, shape of body and have absolutely no energy. It really doesn't matter. And another thing I really want to dispel here is this idea that your metabolism falls off a cliff by the time you're like 30. This is just not true. A 2021 paper in Science confirmed that after adjusting for body size and composition, so giving everybody kind of an equal playing field, the metabolic rates remain stable from age 20 to 60, which effectively dispels this myth that metabolism naturally slows down in midlife. What is actually happening in midlife that we perceive as a slowing down of metabolism is a loss of muscle mass. And losing your muscle mass is one of the biggest indicators for whether or not you will age well. Because, you know, when you get older, like, are you going to have enough muscle mass to get up and down out of a chair? What if you fall on the ground? Like, are you going to be strong enough to pick yourself up? These are real issues that happen with our senior citizens. And like, I personally am just like, it makes me sad whenever I'm talking to like my parents or, you know, other folks, and I'm just like, you guys got to build your muscle mass. Let's go. You know, it's never too late to build muscle mass. There's some really fantastic examples online where you can find people like women in their 70s who have become power lifters at 70 years old, you know, and it's like they've built muscle mass, and it requires, of course, dedication and hard work. But at any stage of life, any time in life, you can improve your muscle mass. And if you're younger and listening to this, like if you're in your 20s or younger, or if you're even in your 30s, now is the optimal time to start building up your muscle mass, because that's going to improve your bone density, and that's going to help protect your body from osteoporosis after menopause. So again, I mentioned earlier, but chronic dieting can induce adaptive thermogenesis, which is where your body slows down its resting energy. So it slows down the amount of energy it needs to function, and it does this as a protective response. Again, we're trying to survive here. That's the message the body's getting from chronic dieting or chronic under eating and chronic restriction. And this is reversible with nourishment and resistance training and circadian repair. There's so much we can do, and it starts off very simply in order to build up that metabolism so you can create more energy. You can eat more food, and you're not going to get bloated. You're not going to have issues. You're not going to like have your weight go up and down and all over the place. You're just going to like maintain, and if anything, you're going to recomp. You're going to start building more muscle, and your shape might start changing a little bit, but you're going to feel stronger and more energetic and more capable and like just full of energy. And that is just the best feeling. So no matter where you are in your health journey, whether you want to change the shape of your body, if you're just happy in your body the way it is, if you just want more energy, like whatever it looks like for you, we want to focus on building up that metabolic engine, your muscles, your mitochondria, the nourishment. It's not about shrinking your body. It's not about taking away. It's not about restricting. It's like, how can I build this up? And a lot of that also ties into the energetic part of what is my truth? What is it that fires me up? What gets me excited? Where can I use my voice? Where can my passion go? Like, how can I just like drive this forward for myself, but in a way that feels really grounded and calm and aligned and accepting where I'm at. I accept my body where it is right now. It's okay. But like, here's my goals. How am I going to get there? I'm going to take these little baby steps, and those little baby steps make me feel great, so that I'm going to take one more baby step. It's not all or nothing. It's not all at once. It's just building layer after layer after layer until it becomes just this natural, beautiful part of your daily routine, where it just makes you feel like fired up and alive. And that, my friends, is a symptom of a thriving metabolism, where you're just like, I'm just like stoked to be here. This is fine. Like, you know, everything in the world aside, I'm just talking about like our daily perception of self and being. Like having joy in the small moments, having joy in like preparing a meal, like joy in movement. Like I just like love going for a walk. Like it's a special time for me. Like I get to like see what's going on in the neighborhood. I get to see the transformations of nature around me. Like how cool is that? It's the little things that really make everything beautiful. So this episode has been jam-packed with perspectives and information and different starting points. And I hope that you kind of picked up on all the different starting points that are available to you, because it doesn't actually have to be about changing your diet. It doesn't have to be about changing your routines. It might just be like thinking about how you are showing up in the world. And are you expressing yourself? Maybe that's your starting point. Or maybe you're like, no, I'm pretty good at that. Like that seems, I do that all the time. That's fine. So maybe then you're like, oh, but my sleep isn't great. Maybe I need to improve my sleep and my circadian rhythm. Like maybe that's your starting point. Or maybe your starting point is like, yeah, like I feel pretty good about those things, but I want to, you know, focus on my nutrition. Like what can I eat to really support my metabolism and my well-being?
Now, I'm going to ask you a quick favor. If you love this episode, I'd appreciate it if you took a moment to leave a review, give me some stars, or share it with a friend who needs to hear this. If you have a topic that you'd love me to talk about, contact me at Shay at vitaessentia.com. And if you're ready to start rewilding your gut and improving your well-being, don't forget to download my gut guide. You can find it under the free resources section of my website. And all the details are in the show notes.
So here we're going to talk a little bit about some nutrient-dense and ancestral foods that are going to support your metabolism and your thyroid. So these are foods that traditionally would have been prized for fertility and strength and resilience. And by no means do you have to be eating these like every single day, but we do want to have these foods as part of a regular rotation in our overall meals. So some of the key nutrients, and I've mentioned nutrition and micronutrients so many times in this episode. Again, it's about the message that is being delivered to your body. It's about that like code wrapped up in the food that sends a signal to the rest of your body. So some of the key nutrients for your thyroid health are going to be things like iodine. And iodine you can find in wild seafood like oysters, mussels, sardines, in seaweed. You want to make sure you're sourcing clean seaweed that's not contaminated. And then things like selenium, so you can get that through Brazil nuts, 2 to 3 nuts a day maximum. You don't want too much. As well as through pastured eggs, grass-fed organ meats, and also seafood. And then zinc, very important. We can get that through grass-fed beef, pumpkin seeds, lamb. It's also very abundant in oysters. They're probably one of the richest sources of zinc. And tyrosine, a building block for thyroid hormones. This is found in basically all of your animal-based proteins. So as long as you're eating animal-based proteins, you're going to be getting lots of tyrosine amino acid in there. Vitamin A, retinol. So this is not the same as plant-based retinol or beta-carotene, which is a precursor to vitamin A, meaning that the body can convert it into vitamin A. A lot of people are not good converters for this, so I do not count plant-based beta-carotenes as part of my vitamin A requirements. I personally don't convert it very well. I know this. And I just think like, make it easy on your body. Like, why do we give the body all these extra steps when you could just have some liver? And if you don't want to eat liver because you're like, that's gross, or I don't know how to prepare it, or that seems complicated, you can get really great desiccated liver supplements where it's like you literally just take a capsule a couple times a day or once a day, and there you go, you're off to the races. But that being said, beta carotene and those like orange colored foods are still great for you. I love them, but just don't count them towards your daily vitamin A. because you might not be converting them as well as you think you are. So other sources for vitamin A is going to be cod liver oil as well as pasture-raised eggs, particularly in the egg yolk. And when we're cooking our eggs, we want to make sure that we're keeping that yolk soft. We don't want a super hard yolk because that's destroying a lot of the really great nutrients in that egg yolk. Egg yolks are basically like a powerhouse of nutrition. And like, let's not denature all those proteins, denature all those nutrients. Plus, egg yolk is delicious. It makes a great sauce on your breakfast potatoes. You know, you push that little yolk down and let it run all over the potatoes, and that's delicious. We also need an abundance of B vitamins, especially B12. And again, we're going to find this in most of our animal foods, especially organ meats. We're going to find it in dairy as well as shellfish. And we also want plenty of magnesium. So magnesium we're going to find in dark leafy greens, cacao, mineral-rich spring water. Like, I just love me a nice mineral bubbly water. One of my favorite things, a little squeeze of lime in there for some vitamin C. That is a great little drink to support your metabolism. And of course, this is also part of why we get like cravings for chocolate, is because, like dark chocolate in particular, it's because often your body is like, I need magnesium because you've probably been stressed recently or something like that, and you've burnt through a bunch of your magnesium, and then you just really want some dark chocolate because it's going to make you feel better, which it will, because there's a lot of compounds in dark chocolate that make you feel good, but it also contains magnesium, which is going to help promote relaxation and support your stress response. Some other metabolic supportive foods are going to be things like bone broth, because that's going to help support your gut. It's going to give you this mineral matrix, which is great for overall metabolic health. Raw dairy and fermented dairy is going to support your gut microbiome as well as your thyroid. And seasonal fruits and root vegetables are a great carb source. They're rich in potassium and vitamin C, which are all really essential for metabolic health and thyroid health. And the reason why I mention all these kind of like animal-based foods and ancestral foods is they provide the most bioavailable nutrients in the forms that your body can easily absorb. So you don't need to rely on heavy supplementation. You don't need to eat like 4 cups of plant foods in order to get like half the amount of the daily recommended intake of something. And it also aligns with the body's natural cycles. So we're eating more seasonally, more locally, very nutrient dense. So we're giving our bodies lots of those building blocks in order to support your cell metabolism and really make sure that you're resting and building and repairing in the right rhythms, so you can have lots of energy and can feel like stable and grounded and safe and secure and just like ready to go. Like, let's create the life we want to be living, right? And you need to do that through having internal resources. I mean, sometimes external resources too, but like, if you don't have the internal resources to put your energy out there, then how are you going to create the things that you want to create? And in indigenous cultures, like, they knew these foods were rich and prized. Women who were preparing for pregnancy were often given special access to the most nutrient-dense foods like liver and bone marrow in order to build the healthiest possible metabolism for new life. So just remember, like, these things really build our bodies up. In addition to having all of these foods, let's eat lots of veggies. Let's get our beans and legumes in there. Like, let's get lots of complexity onto our plates, because that's going to build up the most robust microbiome, the best gut health, the best metabolism, best hormonal balance that we can possibly have. And if you're really struggling with food, or like you're getting bloated all the time, or you're having all these issues, that's our first place to work on, right? But ultimately the goal is like, let's build in as much beauty and complexity and diversity as possible, while also eating as much as possible to maintain our bodies, like eating at that highest level of maintenance, so we can again have the most abundance, the most resources, the most nutrition and energy available to our bodies, so our bodies can do all the functions they need to do and then some, right? Like, all our organs are supported, and it's like, well, I have all this extra energy. Let's make our hair long and glossy. Let's make our nails strong. Let's work on the complexion a little bit. All of those things are secondary once everything else is taken care of. So if you're struggling with your hair's falling out, or you're having a really dull complexion, or you're having all these issues, your body doesn't have enough resources, most likely, to deal with those kind of more superficial things, because those things they don't matter in terms of survival. If your body is thinking like, hey, we need to survive, either we survive or we die, then your body doesn't care if you have hair on your head. Like, your body doesn't care what your complexion looks like. It just cares is your heart working? Is your brain working? Do you have enough energy for your muscles to run away? Those are the first things. And if you're already finding a lot of muscle fatigue, then, it makes sense that you're going to have other more cosmetic issues as well, perhaps, that can be alleviated by providing more energy to your body in the form of food. So to wrap up, I want to give you this little cheat sheet, a little summary of everything we talked about, just to keep it fresh. And maybe now is a great time to take a quick little note, if that resonates for you. Your metabolism is your energy creation center. It's not all about calorie burning. It's about creating energy. And your brain, your heart, and your liver have the highest resting metabolic rate, and they demand up to 70% of your energy resources. So if you don't have enough to fuel those, you definitely don't have enough to fuel everything else. Your thyroid is your mitochondrial communication center, and light, that daylight outside, that nighttime signal, that's going to regulate your thyroid via the circadian clock. Maintenance calories, those protect your thyroid, your muscles, and your mood. And evolution favors energy abundance, not chronic famine. So if you're chronically under eating, that is not the state that your body wants to be in. It wants to have resources, and plenty of resources to put into all the other things that it can do beyond keeping your brain, heart, and liver functioning. Carbohydrates, essential for thyroid, fertility, and calming the brain chemistry. You need more carbs in your luteal phase when your metabolism goes up, and that helps promote great progesterone levels so you can feel calm and, just good all around. Body size, bigger bodies burn more energy at rest. If you're obese, you have a higher absolute basal metabolic rate, but having higher muscle mass, being tall, these are all things that are going to contribute to a higher basal metabolic rate as well. And increasing our muscle mass is going to increase our metabolic rate. Ancestral foods are going to build cellular and hormonal resilience. They're going to fuel up your metabolism, fuel up your thyroid, and things like liver, egg yolks, fish eggs, or oysters. These are all going to be really nutrient-rich, sort of natural supplements that you can take as part of your diet. And when we see metabolic dysfunction, there's a conflict of urgency and sweetness and survival. It's a feeling of not enough time, not able to surrender, have to keep the walls up, have to stay strong. The metabolism mirrors subconscious beliefs. So take from this list one thing and just start focusing on that one thing. Whichever resonates the most for you, that's the place to start. And as always, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. I'm happy to help. So this has been a huge episode. I hope you took notes. If you didn't, go listen to it again. The first half, we're talking so much about energetics and the thyroid and sort of our self-perception. And then we're talking a lot about nutrition and eating enough in order to have a good metabolic rate. And to wrap up, the metabolism is really just the story of your body's energy and adaptability. It's not broken, it's responding to nourishment, to light, to stress, to emotions. And when we work with the body instead of against it, through real food, sunlight, circadian rhythms, and enough energy intake, we can see profound transformations. So this week, I invite you to ask yourself, where can you nourish yourself a little more freely? Where can you speak a little bit more truth? Thank you for being here with me today. And if this episode inspired you, please share it with a friend, subscribe to the show, leave a review and a star rating, and tag me on Instagram so we can keep building this vital community.